Thanks again for joining me for Katy's Corner. I am here today with Keith Waldorf, one of our VPs of engineering, and I want to thank you first off, Keith, for agreeing to speak with me today.
Hi,
Thank you
great.
for
Thanks for
that.
having me.
It's great to have you. So, Keith, tell us what you do. Tell us how long you've been with the company, what you do, who do you report to, all of that good stuff.
Sure. So I've been with the company about 10 months. I started in July of 2020.
Yeah.
It was a very interesting process getting hired during COVID. I hadn't met anyone in person
Yeah.
before I started with the company. Everything was done virtually, so that was definitely a change. I started reporting to Tibor and leading the wired switching group, and had responsibilities across multiple platforms, including some of the things that are now in service provider. And in December, I moved to Alan's group in the cloud team, cloud enterprise, and am running the wired teams there.
Great, great. And what is who's reporting to you? Where are these people located? Tell us a little bit about that.
So my teams are mostly in Salem and Raleigh right now. So it's Dale Nash and Mark Tippins. And then I have a couple of distinguished engineers on my team, Don
Oh,
Gross
fantastic.
and Olin. And
Oh,
then
right.
and then Bjorn also, and Tammy. There's a bunch of people that kind of we work as a larger team. And then really over the last 4 or 5 months have really started to integrate more with Sham's team and Dionys's teams, working kind of across the operating systems, looking at how do we normalize and have some commonality between the things that we're doing, and how do we have a tighter relationship with the cloud as we really push this year and next year towards a bigger foothold into cloud switching and augmenting the things that we do on the wireless side in XIQ.
Got it. Got it. And so I imagine your team is working on helping the install base move to the cloud. Is that right?
We are. So we're enabling features and functionality to move to the cloud, and at the same time, working to support our existing core customers that are using XOS and VOS in their enterprises today, because that's a big part of the revenue stream. So we're working to make sure we maintain that revenue and keep those relationships going by continuing to drive new features and functionality, at the same time really driving new functionality and ease of use and user experience into the cloud.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what an exciting time for us here at Extreme, right?
Yeah, it really is. And it's one of the reasons that I joined Extreme. I had conversations with Alan and Tibor and Nabil during the hiring process. I talked to some of my direct reports at the time as well. And they were selling me this vision of cloud and some disruption and some really innovation in the networking space. And one of the first companies I worked for was Cisco back in the 90s. And so I've gone through kind of this transformation of I work at big companies, and then I've worked at startups. I founded my own startups, and I've come back to big companies. So I've done this about 3 or 4 times. And so I was at a startup. We got acquired by a larger company, and then I decided to come to Extreme. And a lot of it was because of the vision that Nabil was outlining for me, and Alan and Tibor, and the things that we were going to do. So I thought it was time, after having been at Cisco 25 years ago, it was time for some new innovation, some real disruption in the networking space.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit I was going to ask you, so where did you work before Extreme?
So before Extreme, I was at a company called Assurion, and many people don't know of them, but if you've ever paid for a warranty service on your mobile phone, the $5 a month to AT&T or to Verizon, Assurion is the one that actually provides the warranty replacement and service of the refurbished phones. So they're about a $10 billion a year company. They're privately held. And they acquired my startup, and my startup was using data analytics and machine learning from devices in a consumer's home to help identify why they were having internet issues. So the example I would always use is if my mom can't get Netflix to work, who does she call? Well, she can't call Comcast. She can't call Netflix. So she calls me. And, most of us that work in tech, we become, tech support for our family.
Right. Right.
And so we were building technology to help simplify some of those things and to learn what was happening in the home environment. And so at a smaller scale, we were doing in the cloud what Extreme is doing with XIQ and some of the things that we're reaching for around machine learning and analytics and self-healing
Mhm.
networks, and really making the ease of use and the experience for the enterprise users as seamless as possible so they can focus on other tasks.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you're definitely an expert in the industry, and pretty amazing that you joined us. So where were you before your startup got bought?
So
Sounds like you were at Cisco at some point.
I was at Cisco. I started my career actually digging ditches. I was in college and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So my dad got me a job. He worked for PG&E. He got me a job, and I actually dug ditches for a whole summer and realized
Mhm.
that I didn't want to dig ditches for the rest of my life. So that was a good life lesson. But it also introduced me into computers and networks, because PG&E was rolling out a large, what they were calling a data center at the time. So I actually helped build and construct some of the data centers. So I've done everything from construction of data centers and technology. I've worked at a nuclear power plant. I've worked at
Wow.
hydroelectric power plants. Worked all over the state. I was born and raised in Northern California, so I've kind of worked everywhere. Went to work for Cisco, did a startup, and then I ended up at another public company called iPass, and they were actually a Wi-Fi
Yeah.
aggregator.
Yeah.
They would sell Wi-Fi services to people who were traveling and business users. So there I was CTO and VP of engineering.
Oh, fantastic. Really, really incredible, deep knowledge of the industry, which is really, really great for us. A good vote of confidence for us that you decided to join us.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And everything I've done, even my startup in the home, it was, related to networking. So a lot
Right.
of the things I've done, even though I haven't worked at a device manufacturer or an OS manufacturer since Cisco, I've everything that I've done kind of in between has been networking.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Keith, tell us a little bit about on the personal side. What would you like to do? And tell us about your family and all that good stuff.
Sure. Yeah, I'm
I know
married.
there's some cars involved in
There are
your
definitely cars
interests.
involved. You can see my my garage here in the back. So I'm been married. I won't say the years because I'll probably get it wrong. It's 23 years. I think it'll be 23 in October. And I have one son named Aiden who's 15. He's
Nice.
in high school and takes his first driving lesson today. So he's got his driver's permit and he starts to drive today. So
Amazing.
yeah, stay off the streets if you live in and around Santa Clara and Cupertino. Watch out for these drivers.
Yeah.
But I've been into cars since I was a kid. I built my first motor with my dad when I was about 12 years old. My grandfather built race cars back in the 30s. Um, Finished it in 38, and then he was in a submarine in World War II in the Pacific. So he
Wow.
gave up racing for a few years. When he came back, he then raced until I think 1959. And
Wow.
so when I was a kid, we went to the races. We were at the races all the time with my grandfather. And it's just kind of in my blood. So today, I don't officially race, but I take my car to the racetrack. I do what's called high performance driving experience days, where a group rents the track and we get to go out and drive with other like-minded people and have fun.
Hmm.
So all the tracks in California, Laguna Seca, Sonoma Raceway, Thunder Hill, Button Willow. I've been at, dozens and dozens of times over the last few years.
That's a great story. That's a great story. Well, clearly you have amazing leadership qualities, Keith, having started your own company, been a CTO. If you were going to give some leadership advice to our employees, what would that be?
I would say, we're in an interesting environment right now. Um, One is specifically with my team at Extreme, in that we are having to focus on kind of our legacy customers. prior to really going towards this cloud strategy, large customers in healthcare and education, where our switching
Mhm.
technology is used, both Exos and Voss. And for us, we're having to support both. So we're supporting the legacy revenue and the business at hand, and then we're also starting to drive towards cloud. So for the Wired team and for the sales teams and the support teams, really the goal that we have is to improve quality and efficiencies of our operating systems, really be able to apply a lot more automation to what we're doing, focus on that quality so that we can start driving customers to the cloud, that we can automate things much more for them. We can
Right.
build the trust that every release that we put out is our best release.
Yeah.
They don't have to worry about, oh, I don't know if I want to upgrade. I don't know if I want to test. So for the teams, it's been a long road. We've got a lot of work ahead of us, but I
Yeah.
think from the stock price, the share that we're starting to continue to gain in cloud
Yeah.
networking and cloud switching, I think there's a ton of positives there. And
Yeah.
if we really just continue to work hard here over the next year and a half, I think we're really going to see some big gains for the company.
Yeah. Awesome. Good. Well, it's pretty incredible that you started during a pandemic and that it's almost been a year. But thank you for joining us. We're loving having you on the team, and look forward to meeting you in person at some point.
Yeah, yeah, I can't wait to get back in the office. Although most of my
Yeah.
team is remote, but
Yeah.
I look forward to getting out and meeting them as well.
Great. Well, thanks for taking the time to speak with me, Keith.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Take care. You too.